Money. That word alone makes something move inside you. Maybe a subtle contraction in your chest. A flicker of desire tangled with guilt. Hope, mixed with a fear you can't quite name. We've been taught to stay silent when the topic comes up, as if speaking about money were somehow impure, as if spirit and prosperity could not share the same breath. But Catherine Ponder once said something radical. Money is divine substance. It responds to your thought and your feeling. She wasn't talking about coins or numbers. She was speaking about energy, a living, responsive field. Every thought you hold about money is a conversation with that field. Every emotion is a tone that teaches it how to behave around you. When you treat money as an object, it grows distant. When you see it as a living consciousness, something shifts in the air. Ponder called it the personalization of prosperity, understanding that abundance doesn't arrive by luck. It mirrors the frequency you emanate. Neville Goddard echoed the same truth. You already are that which you seek. Money doesn't appear because you chase it. It manifests when you remember it's already part of your energetic identity. You don't get abundance. You remember it. You don't earn wealth. You become coherent with it. Perhaps the problem was never the lack of money, but the broken relationship with its consciousness. A dialogue interrupted by guilt, fear, or resignation. To speak to money, as Catherine taught, is to repair that inner dialogue. It's to heal the voice within that whispers how much you think you deserve to receive. This isn't a manual on getting rich. It's a reconciliation. A remembering that money isn't an enemy or a savior, but a mirror of your creative energy. Because when money becomes a conversation, it stops being an absence. And when you stop fearing it, it returns. Not because you demanded it, but because you finally heard it. There's a silent mistake most people make. We say we want prosperity, but we still look at money as something external, something separate, something to win or lose. We call it it. We strip it of its soul. Catherine Ponder reminded us, everything is mind. Money is no exception. It's not cold matter. It's a living idea shaped by consciousness. Imagine two people. One begs for money, desperately. Their vibration screams, I don't have. The universe hears that before it hears their words. The second person sits in calm certainty, cooperating with the current of abundance. They don't plead, they emit. They don't force, they allow. That difference changes everything, because money doesn't respond to your language. It responds to your frequency. The materialistic mind creates resistance. It chases, counts, controls. But the spiritual mind understands. Money is a messenger. It's not here to be dominated. It's here to reflect your inner coherence. Each time you relate to it from fear or anxiety, you're telling the field, I don't trust the flow. And the flow pauses. Seeing money as a relationship means respect. It's recognizing it as part of the same fabric that breathes life through you. Ponder said prosperity begins the moment you stop chasing it and start conversing with it. Not from need, but from partnership. Money is neither your servant nor your judge. It's a mirror of your relationship with your own worthiness. Money listens, not with human ears, but with vibration. Every word you speak about it, every sigh, every silent thought, leaves a trace in the field where prosperity forms. Catherine Ponder said, money loves to be treated with respect and positive expectancy. Yet most people call it with voices filled with fear, resentment, or exhaustion. They complain about prices, about bills, about never having enough, not realizing that these phrases are small, energetic spells, spoken every day, shaping the invisible architecture of their lives. When you say, it's too expensive, or there's never enough, your nervous system records lack as reality. Your subconscious doesn't understand humor or habit, only frequency. It reads your tone, your emotion, your breath. And when your words are soaked in stress, your body begins to associate money with danger. So even if you affirm, "I want abundance," your cells still whisper, "Money hurts." Your brain will do everything it can to keep you safe, even if that means keeping you broke. Neuroscience now proves what ancient teachers knew. We don't manifest what we want. We manifest what we feel safe to have. Your words are not mere sounds. They are frequencies that instruct the quantum field. To speak about money with guilt or desperation is to program the field for the same. It's like trying to open a door while pushing from the wrong side. Ponder suggested a simple experiment. Observe your language for 7 days. Notice the phrases of scarcity that slip out unnoticed. Each word can become a tool for expansion if it's born from gratitude instead of fear. Changing your words isn't self-deception. It's vibrational re-education. Because language is the interface between your mind and your field. To speak to money is to speak to yourself. It's to measure how much faith you hold in life. When money hears fear, it steps back. When it hears love and respect, it comes closer. Not because it chooses to, but because coherence always attracts itself. For centuries, humanity has burdened money with contradiction. For some, it represents power and dominance. For others, corruption and loss of purity. But in truth, money has no morality. It's neutral. It reflects the consciousness that holds it. Catherine Ponder used to say that when you see money as an enemy, the flow hardens. But when you see it as an ally of spirit, it becomes a channel for good. Everything in creation moves through archetypal patterns, and prosperity is no exception. Money, on a symbolic level, carries the solar principle. Light, vitality, expansion, life force itself. In ancient traditions, gold wasn't valued for its rarity alone, but for its luminosity, its ability to reflect the sun. It was a material mirror of divine consciousness. That same symbolism lives in money today. When lifted from object to symbol, money becomes a reminder of your creative power. The hunter of wealth lives in the frequency of effort. He chases, he clings, he fears loss. His energy is tense, reactive, defensive. But the cooperator with the universal flow understands that abundance is not earned, it is allowed. Money does not arrive through conquest, but through communion. That inner shift, from control to cooperation, is the alchemy that turns struggle into flow. Catherine taught her students to visualize money as golden light, circulating joyfully, freely, through and around them. Not to possess, but to express. Prosperity, then, is not about having more, but about allowing life to move without resistance. True wealth is not in what you own, but in how freely you let energy circulate through you. Transforming money into a spiritual ally is remembering that it is not the goal, but the symbol of your union with the divine. When you understand this, greed dissolves and guilt disappears. Money stops being a worldly concern and becomes sacred language, a conversation between you and life itself. Gratitude is not polite, it is powerful. It is not a courtesy, it's a frequency. Catherine Ponder used to say, "Gratitude is the strongest magnet in the universe." Because it doesn't attract things. It aligns you with the good that is already waiting. It's not mechanical, not a mantra repeated without feeling. It's alive, conscious, anticipatory. It recognizes abundance before it arrives. When you give thanks sincerely, you're not reacting to what you received. You're communicating certainty that the good is already in motion. That certainty creates coherence between your mind and your field. Neuroscience now calls it prefrontal activation, a state where anxiety decreases and fulfillment increases. The body begins to emit the same frequency it would if the blessing had already occurred. Gratitude rehearses the future you desire. Ponder taught her students to speak to money as to an old friend, with respect, warmth, and trust. To say from a calm heart, "Thank you for all that flows through me. Thank you for circulating, sustaining, multiplying good." That kind of dialogue heals emotional resistance. You stop chasing money and begin cooperating with it. Intelligent gratitude is not passive. It doesn't wait for change. It creates coherence for change to happen. When you feel genuine appreciation, your heart's electromagnetic field synchronizes with your brain. It sends a clear signal to the universe. I'm already in harmony with the flow. In that harmony, money stops being a problem and becomes presence. Gratitude doesn't attract wealth. It reveals it. It unveils what was always available, waiting for your vibration to become receptive. Ask yourself, how do you speak to money? Like an enemy you fear losing, or like a friend you trust completely? Because the difference is never in the words, it's in the frequency behind them. There is a subtle kind of guilt, almost invisible, that many confuse with virtue. It's the guilt that hides under spiritual modesty, the voice that whispers, "I don't need much. Money doesn't matter. What truly counts is the soul." But beneath those phrases often lives an unconscious rejection of life's flow. Catherine Ponder warned that poverty is not a virtue. It's a distortion of divine balance. To deny prosperity is to deny a part of the creative power within you. For centuries, spirituality has been tangled with sacrifice. Suffering was mistaken for purity, and well-being became suspicious. But that belief was born of fear, not awareness. To believe money corrupts is as mistaken as believing it sanctifies. Money only amplifies what already exists. If your heart vibrates in love, it multiplies love. If it vibrates in lack, it multiplies lack. It's never money that corrupts. It's the inner disconnection that misuses it. The virtuous poor archetype is deeply rooted in the collective psyche. It suggests that to be worthy of God, one must renounce the material. But renouncing from fear is not detachment, it's resistance. True detachment is freedom. It's the ability to have without being possessed, to allow money to flow without turning it into identity or enemy. Catherine taught to bless money before using it, not as ritual, but as remembrance. May this resource serve the good, multiply harmony, and express love. That simple intention purifies the energetic exchange. When you bless, you stop acting from guilt and start acting from coherence. True humility is not denying abundance. It's remembering that all abundance flows from a greater source. When you allow yourself to prosper, you become a broader channel for the good that seeks to manifest through you. Money doesn't separate you from the light, only guilt does. Imagine for a moment that money could speak, not the cold sound of coins, nor the rustle of paper, but the living voice of the energy it represents. What would it say? Perhaps its voice would be calm, ancient, almost compassionate. Perhaps it would begin like this: I was never your enemy, though you often treated me like one. I was never your savior, though you begged me as if I were. I have only ever reflected what you felt about yourself. Catherine Ponder understood this deeply. For her, money was not a thing. It was a living symbol, sensitive to the vibration with which it is called. If money could speak, it might remind you of all the times it was blamed for your pain, used as an excuse to betray your heart, or feared as if it were sin itself. It might say, "You fear me, but you call me. You reject me, but you desire me. I did not come to confuse you. I came to mirror your relationship with abundance." And in its voice, there would be no accusation, only compassion. Because like life itself, money does not judge, it reflects. Catherine suggested a symbolic practice. Imagine having a conversation with money, not as fantasy, but as inner listening. Because when you truly listen, you realize nothing was missing. There was only an interrupted dialogue. Every debt, every gain, every loss, they are all forms of communication. Vibrational languages in which money reveals how open you are to receive and how afraid you still are to lose. If money could speak, it might say, "I am movement. I was not born to be hoarded or feared, but to flow. I wither in rigidity, and I blossom in trust. Don't chase me with desperation, nor lock me away in fear. Treat me with dignity, and I will stay with you joyfully." That would be its purest message. Money does not ask for worship, only consciousness. It might remind you that it never wanted to be a symbol of lack or domination, but of balance. That its purpose is to serve, not to control. And that once you learn to listen, it stops being noise and becomes music, the breath of life flowing through you. Giving and receiving are not opposites. They are the two breaths of the same force. Catherine Ponder used to say, "Whatever you give with love returns multiplied, because the universe does not understand loss, it only understands flow." When you give from abundance, you affirm, "I have enough to share." And that affirmation becomes frequency. But when you give from fear or to be seen, the field registers lack and returns the same vibration. Money, in this sense, is like the bloodstream of the world. It circulates, nourishes, carries life. When it stagnates, the body sickens. When it flows freely, everything thrives. The cycle of giving and receiving doesn't depend on quantity. It depends on energy. It's not about how much you give, but the coherence of the heart that gives. Catherine taught that conscious generosity is one of the most powerful forces for opening prosperity. Not giving out of obligation, nor offering what you don't have, but allowing good to circulate through you. Quantum physics describes the universe as a field of constant exchange. Every thought, every emotion, every act creates waves that expand and return to their origin. When you give with love, you expand coherence. When you receive with gratitude, you complete the circuit. To receive is also an act of humility. To accept what life offers, without guilt, without the illusion of control, is to honor the cosmic rhythm. Ponder insisted on a simple but profound truth. Whoever cannot receive also cannot truly give, because both movements are one. Giving and receiving are not two actions. They are one breath, inhalation and exhalation of the divine flow. When one stops, the other weakens. Every act of offering, of time, attention, or resources, must be accompanied by willingness to receive with grace. That is where abundance becomes continuous. The quantum cycle of giving and receiving is, at its core, a dance of trust. You give without fear, you receive without guilt, and the flow becomes infinite. Because the universe doesn't respond to quantity, it responds to coherence. Not every prayer opens the sky. Some, without realizing it, close it. Catherine Ponder observed that many people pray for prosperity while vibrating in fear and lack. That inner incoherence creates an echo, and the universe, faithful to vibration, returns the same frequency. To pray from lack is to affirm absence. To say, "I need money" from anxiety is to tell the quantum field, "I still don't have it." And the field, obedient to emotion, replicates that state again and again. Dr. Joe Dispenza explains, "Every thought sustained with strong emotion becomes an electromagnetic signature. The brain sends the signal, the heart amplifies it, and together they form a pattern that the universe reads as instruction. If you pray from fear, you're broadcasting more fear. If you pray from trust, you activate a reality that already exists on another frequency. The power is never in the words. It's in the coherence between thought and emotion." Catherine said, "Prayer is not begging, it's affirming." To pray correctly is to align with the natural law of abundance, not with the exception of miracles. When you pray asking, you assume lack. When you pray affirming, you recognize presence. Thank you, because I am already in the flow. That one phrase changes the entire vibration. The universe doesn't respond to pleading. It responds to conviction. Most people block prosperity because they confuse faith with waiting. They believe prayer is a door that will open someday, when in truth, prayer is the recognition that the door was never closed. To pray correctly is not to ask, it is to remember. To remember that abundance doesn't come to you, it flows through you when your inner state becomes coherent with the good you desire to experience. Catherine and Dispenza meet in the same truth. The body doesn't distinguish between what is real and what is vividly felt. When you feel gratitude in advance, when your heart beats to the rhythm of "it is already done," the field responds with mathematical precision. Not because you convinced an outer power, but because you awakened the inner one that has always created reality. To pray, then, is not to beg heaven, but to activate heaven within. Money doesn't live only in banks or hands. It also lives in family memories, in the silences of generations, in the sentences repeated without thought. Money is hard. Honest people never get rich. There's not enough for everyone. These phrases are more than ideas. They are energetic codes, vibrational memories passed from parent to child, from story to cell. Catherine Ponder explained that the human mind is not an empty container, but a magnetic field filled with impressions. What you hear about money, you feel. What you feel, you repeat. And what you repeat, you become. Modern science confirms what mystics always knew. Emotional memories travel through generations. Epigenetics shows that experiences of scarcity, war, or loss leave molecular imprints on the body. We inherit not only the features of our ancestors, but their frequencies, their fears, their vows, their unfinished prayers. A grandmother who lived through poverty or displacement can leave you an unconscious fear of losing everything, even if your present life is secure. That's why healing your relationship with money is also healing the story carried in your DNA. Catherine said, "Money is not inherited, it is reconciled." Reconciliation begins when you stop repeating the fear and start honoring the flow. You don't erase the past, you release it. You look with love at those who believed that survival was the only way to live. You thank them for bringing you here, and in that gratitude, energy starts to move again. Money stops being a legacy of pain and becomes a lineage of consciousness. Imagine your finances as a river that flows through generations. If the waters became trapped by trauma or guilt, your work is not to break the dam, but to open new channels of reconciliation. Catherine suggested blessing the family story. Everything my ancestors felt, feared, or lost, I now return to the divine flow of good. That simple act releases stagnant energy and reorganizes the field. The past becomes fertilizer for freedom. True prosperity isn't built on denial of the past. It's built on its transmutation. When you heal the emotional memory of money, you don't just change your reality. You shift the frequency of your entire lineage. Money is not an end. It is a mirror, reflecting, with divine precision, the way you relate to life itself. Catherine Ponder said, "Prosperity is the natural consequence of a mind at peace with good. When you feel guilt for receiving, fear for spending, or anxiety about holding on, you're not rejecting money. You're rejecting the life force that longs to move through you. To reconcile with money is to reconcile with existence itself. It is to restore faith in the intelligence that breathes you, feeds you, and multiplies everything you bless. For years, you were told money was a tool, a danger, a test. But few told you the truth, that money is also a form of communion. Each time you receive with gratitude, you declare, "I trust the flow." Each time you give without fear, you affirm, "Life sustains me." In that invisible exchange, money stops being an emotional burden and becomes sacred language, a living prayer through which the divine whispers, "I am with you, even here." Joe Dispenza explains that each repeated thought becomes an electromagnetic signature. To think constantly about scarcity, debt, or loss is to tune your body to that frequency. Your nervous system becomes a transmitter of lack. Catherine taught the reverse, that every thought of abundance is a silent prayer that reorders the field toward expansion. When mind and heart agree, when thought and emotion become one, that is the alchemy where the invisible becomes visible. To reconcile with money is not to glorify it, but to return it to its natural place. It is not a god nor an enemy. It is a river, a current meant to flow with freedom. Breathe in trust. Thank as you inhale. Release as you exhale. That is the real rhythm of abundance. Just as breath halts when there is fear, financial flow also halts when there is guilt. But when you return to faith, the current resumes its course. Catherine said, "Money is the breath of God in material form." And Dispenza adds, "The mind creates the mold, but the heart gives it life." Prosperity, then, is not a goal. It is a state of coherence. When you speak to money as you would speak to life, with respect, with love, with awareness, the entire universe responds. Because in that sacred dialogue, you stop searching outside for what has always lived within. If this message resonated with you, if you felt something awaken in your relationship with money and with life, stay connected to this space. Subscribe, share this message with those still afraid to prosper, and remember, when one consciousness returns to the flow, it illuminates many others around it.